Welcome to ENB Light and Lens. We are delighted to have His Excellency Mr. Li Jiming, Ambassador of People's Republic of China to Bangladesh. Thank you very much for joining us today, Excellency.
Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, I would like to know the current state of relationship between Bangladesh and China. Where do we exactly stand today?
Well, I see Bangladesh-China relationship as a good friend, good neighbor, and very importantly, trustworthy partners. Partners for economic development and also partners for Belt and Road Initiative construction. And also partners for many challenging issues internationally.
Recently, you have suggested our businesses not to look for an alternative to China. And does it indicate that situations on the ground is improving?
Of course, yes. You see, the latest statistics of the epidemic in China, if you look at the figure outside the epicenter, Hubei province, today, the latest information shows that yesterday, there are only 3 cases, confirmed cases, outside Hubei province. And inside Hubei, the situation is also improving. Actually, we are now starting to worry about our neighbors now, like Korea and Japan, Italy and Iran. Yes, we are already offered some help hands to them in terms of medical supplies, testing kits, and so on. And also, I am glad to see that so far there is no any confirmed cases in Bangladesh yet, but we should keep alerted. And I really hope that we will not see any confirmed cases in this country. But if so, China is also ready to offer our helping hands.
Excellency, you are aware that some of our Bangladeshi students are still in China and they are willing to come back. But you have suggested to stay them back in China.
Yes, I did.
Has there been any change in your position?
No, because they are not staying in the epicenter Wuhan city. Yes, they are in Hubei province, but it's another city because those students basically are in the Three Gorges University, which is based in Yichang city. And the situation in Yichang is much, much better than the situation in Wuhan. And that is the number one reason. And the number two, which is more important, is that I think I would like to minimize the risk of any spread out in this country. If they do come back, they have to take bus, they have to take airplanes, and there is a risk of getting infected, and they will probably get spread out in this country. So that is the worst, that's the least thing I would like to see. That is why I encourage them to stay in China, to minimize the risk of getting any spread out in this country and get themselves also into risk. That is the worst thing, least thing I would like to see.
Our government is also agrees to keep them in
I think I haven't got the final decision from the Bangladesh government yet. I mentioned to the Bangladesh government, if they need a permission to get back to those students, the permission is there from the Chinese side, no problem. But personally, I would not recommend them to get back because they are being taken care of by the Chinese people and their classmates, their universities. So far, there is no any campuses in China has been infected in any university. So if they stay in their campuses, they will be pretty safe, and they get their daily supplies and from the university free of charge. But they have not they don't have this freedom to move around, to have a cup of tea outside the campus. That's true. They have to stay in their building, and which is a sacrifice to them in the stand of the universities. But I think as a responsible citizen of Bangladesh, they should consider if they should to sacrifice their freedom of movement a little bit just for the sake of themselves and also for the sake of their homeland, for home countrymen.
You're right. I had the opportunity to talk to some of our students who are living in China. They are very happy the way you are providing foods and protection for them. They appreciate Chinese government's efforts.
That is something we should do because the safety, security, and health of the students is among the top priority of our government now.
The figure as of now, more than 2,900 people have died and over 86,000 people have been infected with this virus.
Yes.
So there is some, impact. Maybe what you described, it will be a short-term impact. In the long term, there will be no problem for projects that are being implemented in Bangladesh. I would like to know what are the initiatives Chinese companies or the Chinese government making to make the project implementation smooth in Bangladesh.
Yes, we are actually working on that. In order to make it more clear, I decided to go to one of those key projects. Number one is Padma Bridge, and number two is Padma Bridge Railway Link. So on the 4th of this month, I'm going to have a meeting on site of the construction projects, as I just mentioned. And I would like to invite UNB and friends from the media circle to participate in this meeting and to look at those projects. What is going on? What is the specific situation by our own eyes? I would like to see it by my own eyes because I've been receiving a lot of report from those project leaders. But I would like to make an investigation trip by myself and to find out the facts. So probably we can go together. But before we make this conference there, I would say that according to the reports sent back to me, yes, there are some impact. First is because some of the employees cannot get back when they have after their Chinese New Year's vacation, they cannot get back because of the restriction of the say their original place in China, and also the restriction of travel by the Bangladesh side. Say some of the visa on arrival has been suspended, and so on. And the number two reason is that some of the equipment manufactured in China has been delayed, and some of the workers in China has not been able to back to their position to manufacture those equipment that we need for those projects. I think that's the major reasons. And the third reason is minor, but it's also important to mention is that there are some customs clearance procedures has been prolonged and we have to take more time to get the customs clearance for some of the equipment and the materials. That is something we need to work on. I think.
Are you in discussion with the government officials?
Of course, yes. I sent several letters to relevant authorities, relevant ministers, and I got very positive feedbacks. So I think those are minor questions that we can handle it in a recent.
So you can hope that the things will get back to normal.
Yes. To me, I think it won't be any substantial impact on those mega projects. And for trade, yes, probably we have to postpone the delivery for 1 month or even 2 months. But for the mega projects implementation, I won't see any substantial influences.
Excellency, you are aware that Bangladesh is one of the first countries to join Belt and Road Initiative. Do you think that the BRI will be affected due to this current situation in China?
No, not at all. I think probably just to the contrast, BRI is also the working mechanism is there just for helping to tackle the current challenge. You see, a lot of countries in the BRI community are offering helping hands to China, and because the communication platform is there, and the infrastructure hardware is there already. So that it's easier for them to offer their helping hands in terms of medical supply chain and so on. But also, I would like to mention that the spread of this coronavirus is not along the BRI. That is something I would like to mention and to make it very clear. Just in the contrary, BRI is helping to tackle the challenge. And also, as I just mentioned, now many countries are in severe situation now, and China is offering our help in terms of BRI mechanism. For example, we are offered 500 testing kits to Bangladesh, which is the first
country to receive
this. That's right. Before any other countries receive that. That is because Bangladesh is the first association member of BRI partner with China. So that is why we offer this quicker than anyone else. That is an example just to say that this epidemic won't influence the BRI. And people will see that the global community is a community with shared future. If China get impacted, everybody can feel that. But if China get recovered from that, everybody will feel it. So I think BRI is helping to battle this virus and this epidemic now.
Let me ask you a question on global issue. Rohingya issue.
Yes.
Rohingya crisis remains unresolved despite global efforts. There has been some progress on accountability front, and you have recently indicated that there will be some concrete outcome in terms of repatriation, just going beyond lip services that we see around the world.
Yes.
I would like to know your thoughts on that.
Yes, I think China is offering our helping hands in resolving this crisis. Actually, we have a working mechanism called tripartite meeting. The 3 ministerial meeting has been held twice in New York and once in Beijing, headed by the foreign minister of China. And out of those informal ministerial meetings, a lot of consensus has been made, and a lot of suggestions has been implemented. We have, for example, during those meetings, there is a roadmap which says we have to solve this problem with 3 steps. Step 1 is cessation of violence in Rakhine, especially northern Rakhine state. And the number 2 is repatriation. And the number 3, which is fundamental one, is development in the whole area. That will basically solve the problem in a more fundamental way.
You are talking about development in Rakhine state.
Rakhine state and the neighboring state areas in Bangladesh also. So I think now we can see that this situation in Rakhine state, especially northern Rakhine state, where the influx is from, is now very stabilized now. There's no any current violences still occurring, no. And repatriation is the second stage that were undertaken. And I think a lot, very specific suggestions has been made out of those, what we call the tripartite working platform. And some of those suggestions has been already approved by the 2 governments, Myanmar government and the Bangladesh government. And some of them are still in the process of evaluating. And a lot of very positive feedbacks already from the 2 governments. China is a mediator during these courses because the major players must be the Myanmar and Bangladesh, especially Myanmar, because that's their headache. This used to be a domestic problem of theirs, but because of the influx, they impacted Bangladesh. And I think we've seen a lot of very positive signs and a lot of political wills that has been made to solve this problem from both sides. So I am quite confident that this problem can be solved in the recent future, especially the first batch of repatriation can be realized in the near future, even sooner than many people expected.
We have the same hope because we are actually having the impact in a big way due to the huge presence of Rohingya people.
Yes.
We hope that these people will be able to go back to their homes
Of
safely
course.
with dignity.
Yes, safety, dignity, and sustainability. That's the goal of our repatriation. Yes.
We see a lot of news in Western media regarding Uyghur Muslims.
Yes, yes.
I would like to know actually what's happening there, what's the situation on the ground.
Okay. Yes, I think that's something I would like to mention also, if you don't ask me. First, I would like to ask you, do you know how many Muslims are there living in China? What's the Muslim population in China?
I don't know the exact figure.
Okay, that's
It's not small.
25 million, 25 million, more than 25 million. So people are talking about 1 million also Muslims are being mistreated also. Why I call it a rumor is that if a country has a 25 million population of Muslims, how come the country could treat a particular group, which is 1/25 of Muslims, badly and treat the others normally? That it doesn't make sense. And if the people think that probably you treat the Uyghur particularly, not as the other Muslim population in China. That is, again, not true, because I would like to ask the second question. Do you know how many Uyghurs are there in China? Not 1 million, not 2 million, actually more than 10 million. How come that we treat particular 1 million badly and treat the others normally? That doesn't make sense. So in China, we have a unanimous or unified policy towards any different ethnic groups, any different religions. That is true. And my predecessor was you see, my predecessor was Muslim, who is now the ambassador of Northern Macedonia. How can you imagine that we're treating Muslims badly? How come he can be an ambassador to Bangladesh? That doesn't make sense. So I would say that anything says that China has an ill intention towards any particular group of Muslim people. That is not true, because logically, as I just proved to you, it's not make sense. And some people in Xinjiang, especially in Xinjiang, maybe Uyghur, maybe not, are treated particularly is because we've witnessed a lot of terrorism activities in some particular regions in Xinjiang. And some particular small group of people, they have been influenced by the extremists outside of China. And they are trained and they are influenced. You see, my hometown in Kunming, once there are 5 Uyghur Muslims. They use the knives, killed 5 Muslims in Kunming railway station. They killed 31 people on the railway station, which was, I think, 2012 or 2014, I think. Probably you can check it if I'm wrong. Those kind of things in any country, the government should not allow these kind of things happen. I think in Bangladesh, you also suffered similar kind of terrorist attacks in 2016 or something. I think terrorism is the common enemy for any country, any religion, and as any religion belief. So that is a common enemy that we should against commonly, jointly. I hope that this idea can be shared by a broader amount of people.
Thank you, Excellency. You mentioned that terrorism is a common enemy. I would like to know what kind of cooperation you have with Bangladesh to dealing with this common enemy.
I think we have been keeping exchange of information, and we are also inviting the Bangladesh journalists, diplomats to visit Xinjiang and to visit those places. Actually, not only Bangladesh, we invited more than 5,000 diplomats, journalists from all different Muslim countries to Xinjiang last year. So 5,000 already. This year we're going to do the same. A couple of days ago, when I was in the National Press Club, I actually proposed a proposal to the club that we should invite some journalists to participate in an investigation tour, fast-finding tour to Xinjiang, to Uyghur regions, to see by the own eyes of ours, and to randomly pick up people to have interview there, just to find out what is exactly happening. So we will do it this year. Probably you can join us.
Okay, thank you. We know China is heavily investing in infrastructure in Bangladesh. I would like to know, apart from infrastructure, what are the areas Chinese companies are willing to invest in Bangladesh?
Well, I think infrastructure is definitely, we're very good at it. So we would like to see more infrastructure investment. Also, we would like to participate in projects like metro and so on in Dhaka, and try to solve the traffic jam problem of Dhaka, because we suffered this kind of problem 10 years back or 20 years back. We have some experiences in solving this kind of problem. And also, we'd like to see more industries like garment industries, because a lot of Chinese companies are considering to ship their factories to, say, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, and so on. Probably Bangladesh is a better idea. Yes, better idea to sweep from those areas to Bangladesh. If not all of those, I think you will see much more Chinese companies are investing in garment industry and textile industry as well. Very encouragingly that my commercial counselor gave me a list of Chinese companies which is already in the export processing zones in Bangladesh. The total number of Chinese companies already reached 100, which is the biggest number compared with the other countries. The other countries, they have less numbers of enterprises working in those processing zones now. And we will see much more in recent future.
You know, our government has taken a number of initiatives to improve the investment environment in Bangladesh. Do you think still there are some areas that we need to address to attract more FDI from
Yes.
China and other countries also?
Yes, I think so. Bangladesh is a very attractive investment market. I would make it very clear. It is very attractive to Chinese investors. But when you're talking about the improvement, yes, there's still some room. For example, the land acquirement could be very difficult if you are not investing inside the processing zone, export processing zone. If you are investing outside, the land acquirement could be very difficult. And the second thing is that the formalities, clearances could be difficult also. It takes not too long to clear all the formalities. So I think there's still some room to improve it. As for the others, power supply, traffic jam, that is something that I think people can manage, because power supply could not be a problem within 2 or 3 years. I think this problem will be solved in Bangladesh. probably viable. So I would not consider those are the particular difficulties. Some policies also, I was told that some Bangladesh government how to say stimulation policies are only for Bangladesh companies in textile industry and government industry. Probably government should consider to give the national treatment to any foreign investors as the Bangladeshi companies, say tax return or whatever. Those kind of policies should be equal to any foreign investors as the Bangladeshi investors.
Excellency, you are aware that we are going to celebrate birth centenary of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, this year. You have taken some initiative to join this celebration. Is anybody coming from your country to join this mega celebration?
I think China won't absent in this big celebration. We're being invited by Bangladesh government, and the embassy is working on that. And up to today, I haven't got any solid confirmation from the capital yet. But I'm sure that China won't absent. Yes.
I would like to know briefly about the trade relations between the two countries. What are the opportunities that Bangladesh can avail of from China?
Well, since 2006, China has been the biggest trade partner of Bangladesh. And last year, we witnessed a $18.7 billion US trade between the two countries. The problem is that the trade deficit is in China's favor, not in Bangladesh's favor. That is something we need to tackle with. And I think the trade should be more balanced one. In order to keep the trade more balanced one, China encourages Bangladesh exporters to participate in Chinese expositions. There's a very unique one called China Import Exposition, which is participated by the exhibitors from outside and to exhibit their products, which is ready to export to China. So that is why we call it import exposition, which is a unique one in China. Bangladesh participated in the last two, last year and the year before, and with a big presence of businesses. I hope that this year, which is going to be the third one, and we can have a bigger Bangladesh participants, and we have those kind of trade shows in many other places. For example, my hometown, we have a China South Asia exposition, also a big Bangladesh participants. Let's hope these kind of exchanges can be enhanced in the recent future. And another thing I'd like to mention is that the two governments has already exchanged our diplomatic letter, which mentioned that 97% of Bangladesh export products to China should be tariff-free. So this is very magnificent. I think out of this arrangement, there will be much more Bangladesh products export to China in the very recent future. The letter of exchange happened last year. So I think this year we can have some outcome out of that.
That's great. We are after Millennium Development Goals, we are dealing with Sustainable Development Goals, new set of global goals. How China can help us to achieve those goals smoothly? Because we had a very good track record in implementing Millennium Development Goals.
Yes, I think China is most willing to offer our helping hands and collaboratively with Bangladesh. For example, we can consider, as we just mentioned that during the meeting, there is a commitment made by the Bangladesh government that is by the year 2020, you're going to reduce 8% of the carbon dioxide emission. And China can offer exporting clean energy, clean electricity from Yunnan province via Myanmar to Chittagong area or even to Dhaka area. That will greatly reduce the carbon dioxide emission from this country. This is one way. And another way is that probably China can play a more aggressive and active role in development cooperation with Bangladesh to achieve your development goals, socio-economic development goals in more broader areas, more sectors and so on. Yes.
Moving to cultural ties between two countries, we have been seeing many programs over the last couple of years between these two countries. I would like to know what are the plans for future to strengthen these cultural ties between Bangladesh and China.
Well, I think cultural exchanges is very, very important in terms of enhancing the bilateral relationship. We've been very glad to see that there are a lot of exchanges between the two countries. For example, in January of this year, there is a singing and dancing troupe sent by Xinjiang Autonomous Region of China to Bangladesh. They have performed here many times, and they have been welcomed by the local people here in Bangladesh. And in April, we're considering to send another singing and dancing troupe from Yunnan province. So a lot of these kind of exchanges are there. And also, I would like to mention the people-to-people exchange. Scholarship is very important for Bangladeshi students to pursue their higher education in outside Bangladesh. China probably is the biggest scholarship offer country in Bangladesh. Last year, we offered about 1,000 scholarships, which is a big number compared with many other countries. And last year we've seen 5,411 student visa from the embassy. And out of that, about 1,000 visas are for scholarship owners of Bangladesh students. And I think that this number should be increased in the future. We're working on it.
Do you have any message to convey for your Bangladeshi friends?
Yes. I think first thing I would like to mention is that so far there is no any confirmed cases in Bangladesh yet as for the epidemic. That is very encouraging. Let's keep it. So I would like to urge the Bangladesh people to keep cautious, but no panic needed. Just keep confident on China, because you see, in China, the confirmed cases inside China is much less than the confirmed cases outside. And also the cured cases is much bigger than the death toll now each day. Yesterday, we have only 3 confirmed cases outside the Hubei province. And in Hubei province, it's only less than 300 or so, which is much small figure compared with outside China now. So I think China is back, and many countries, many factories are already back into business. And now the production capacity of about 80% is there already. So just keep confident and keep alert and keep cautious, but no panic. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me
conversation.
this opportunity.
Thank you.